basically a version of the recipe that got me on the Food Network back in 2004. Although the version I did back then had a fish component as well, but we're just going to do the okra. And the spice blend Lucky 7 that I'm using didn't exist at the time, although I basically used the same things. I just didn't have a name for it at the time. All right, this is a new cooktop for me, so bear with me as I figure this thing out. There we go. All right, so where's my giant portable olive oil?
And can we tell people that fried okra is not in your vocabulary?
Well, I love fried okra, and my grandmother used to make fried okra, but the thing that most people are squeamish about okra is the slime factor, right? It's that roping, it's the mucogen, is the actual word, which is a horrible word. But it's actually a really healthy property. In fact, they're creating an artificial blood using okra, that same property, to get the right consistency. And so it's used for medicinal purposes. It's also supposed to help regulate your hydration. So it's a very healthy thing, but it usually only comes out when you overcook okra. You overboil it, you overcook it, it becomes slimy and stringy. So frying it obviously is one way to avoid that, and it becomes crispy and delicious, but it's not, it also absorbs a ton of grease, and it's not exactly a health food at that point. So we are going to do this whole threaten thing, but first I'm going to get all my spices together. So I've got garlic, I'm going to do some little red onions. And they can be white onions too. If it's Vidalia season, it can be Vidalias. I just happen to have these grown in my garden and thought I would utilize them. Alright, so here are those, and I'm going to use this Lucky 7. And I'm putting the spice in now for a couple of reasons. Number one, when you toast spices, it kind of wakes them up, it opens them up a little bit. A little more. I got a bunch over. And so you should be able to smell that here in just a second.
What's the main ingredient on the Lucky 7?
Cumin, coriander, bay leaf, cinnamon. It's in the same sort of family as a curry, but it's not curry. But in that it has sort of the sweet smell to it. Cardamom's in there, ginger's in there, but there's no sugar in there. But it has those kind of sweet smelling spices happening. But by putting the spices in, not only does it open the flavor a little bit, it also distributes it in the oil. So I could add it at the end, but then it kind of stays in one place. This is going to kind of help make it homogeneous in the dish. Let me crank this off just a bit. Again, it smells fantastic. A little salt in there. Now here comes our okra, which are nice and green and still crunchy. And okra is delicious raw too. I do a lot of raw okra things in salads or just as a snack. I know one time I was eating raw okra out of the garden and somebody said, I thought they were poisonous until you cooked them. They're not poisonous, they're delicious. But you want them to where they're still tender. Okra, if it gets too big, gets real woody and fibrous. So the smaller the pod, the better. All right, so in we go with our okra. And that's the issue with induction. The second you take it off, it thinks we're done cooking, so it kind of stops for a second. But I'm going to get this hot, and then I'm going to turn it off because it's hot as it's going to get. A little salt in here. So again, I'm not really cooking it through. It's still going to be bright green and crunchy. And if you're not good with this whole flipping thing, you just take your spoon and move it around. When I was learning how to do this flipping thing, my dad gave me marble chips because he would sculpt with marble, and so we always had marble gravel. So we had an old beat-up skillet that I would go outside and flip marble chips until I got the hang of it. And he taught me that it's, so number one, it's not in the wrist. My whole arm is moving like a train, if you ever see how a train piston, I guess that is, or goes around, that's what I'm doing. So it's that motion. And he also said, just make sure the pan is where the food's going to be when it lands. So, very simple.
That was
The same like with catching flies. Anytime I was a kid, I was trying to catch flies. They said, don't close your hand where the fly is, close your hand where the fly is going to be. Which, in hindsight, was pretty clever, but you know. All right, so lastly then, on the okra, I'm going to do just a drizzle of honey. And that combination of the honey and the cumin and the bay leaf, all that together, this is, to me, one of my favorite preparations of okra. And I've converted many people who think they only eat fried okra because they don't like it this way. Until they try it this way, it's fantastic.
It is.
Still has that pop. Let's make some plates, guys. Let's see what we got. So we got our beef salad with kind of the sorghum vinaigrette. got our tabbouleh with bulgur and chickpeas and spinach.
Would you define the bulgur?
Yeah, bulgur, it's a whole grain. It's sort of like a wheat grain.
Like wheat?
Yeah, it's in the wheat family. It's sort of the nut part of it, the hard seed part of. And it's just been cracked so it can
Like
hold
oatmeal
water.
and rice had a baby.
That's a great,
Right?
yeah, it's a great way. It's
Just-
but like I said, it's got a very nice.
Just tell me how I feel, Mayor. Just tell me how I
Now-
feel.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know that.
No, I'm guessing.
I fried okra 2 nights
Yes,
ago.
he said yes, so.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have the other day.
Yeah,
And again, there's nothing wrong with frying in olive oil, but extra virgin olive oil just will at a point break down.
Right.
So if you're going to do super high temperature, the best is avocado oil. It holds up to that high heat, or grapeseed oil, or pumice does as well. Canola does.
Walnut oil, is it?
Yeah, and so walnut oil is fantastic, but I would use it more for salads because that sort of subtle earthy nuttiness kind of goes away when you heat it up.
Eat it.
But in a salad or in a salad dressing, it's pretty magic. It's really good that way.
I didn't think
you know that long ago.
I
I didn't know there was
I had
such a thing.
You got yours.
I'm not a fan.